A small waterfall in someone's front yard does not typically meet the definition of a permanently installed decorative fountain or reflection pool as described in Part 5 of Article 680 of the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The NEC definition specifies that these fountains or pools are constructed in the ground, underground, or in a building in such a manner that they cannot be readily disassembled for storage, regardless of whether they are served by electrical circuits. These units are primarily built for their aesthetic value and are not intended for swimming or wading. To determine if a yard waterfall falls under this definition, several factors need to be considered. Firstly, the method of construction is crucial. If the waterfall is designed and built in a way that it can be easily disassembled and moved for storage, it is unlikely to be considered permanently installed. For example, if the waterfall consists of modular components that are simply stacked or connected without permanent bonding to the ground or a building structure, it would likely be excluded from this definition. Secondly, the primary purpose of the structure is important. While decorative fountains are designed and installed primarily for their aesthetic value, a yard waterfall might serve other purposes as well, such as erosion control, water drainage, or creating a natural habitat for plants and animals. If the aesthetic value is not the primary purpose, it may not be classified as a decorative fountain under the NEC. Thirdly, the intent for swimming or wading is a key consideration. Decorative fountains and reflection pools are explicitly not intended for swimming or wading. If the yard waterfall is designed or used in a way that allows or encourages people to enter the water for recreation, it would not fall under this specific definition. Now, let's elaborate on the NEC requirements for permanently installed decorative fountains and reflection pools that do fall under Part 5 of Article 680. If a yard waterfall meets the criteria of being permanently installed and primarily intended for aesthetic value, it must comply with several electrical safety regulations. These regulations are designed to minimize the risk of electric shock and ensure the safe operation of any electrical equipment associated with the fountain. Firstly, all electrical equipment used in or around the fountain, such as pumps, lights, and control systems, must be listed and labeled for use in wet locations. This ensures that the equipment is designed to withstand exposure to water and prevent electrical hazards. Secondly, ground fault circuit interrupter or GFCI protection is required for all electrical circuits that supply power to the fountain equipment. A GFCI is a device that detects small imbalances in the current flowing through a circuit, which can indicate a ground fault and the potential for electric shock. When a ground fault is detected, the GFCI quickly interrupts the power supply, preventing injury or death. Thirdly, bonding and grounding are essential for electrical safety in and around the fountain. Bonding involves connecting all metal parts of the fountain structure and any associated electrical equipment to form a continuous electrical path. This ensures that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential, minimizing the risk of electric shock. Grounding involves connecting the bonded metal parts to the earth, providing a path for fault current to flow back to the source and trip the circuit breaker or fuse. Fourthly, wiring methods and clearances must comply with the NEC requirements for wet locations. This includes using appropriate types of wiring, such as UF cable or PVC conduit, and maintaining adequate clearances between electrical equipment and water. Fifthly, underwater lighting is subject to specific requirements to ensure safety. This includes using low-voltage lighting systems, typically 12 volts, and installing the lights in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and the NEC. Sixthly, any electrical panels or junction boxes located near the fountain must be weatherproof and installed in a way that prevents water from entering. Additionally, these enclosures must be properly grounded and bonded. Seventhly, regular inspections and maintenance are crucial for ensuring the continued safety of the electrical system. This includes checking for signs of damage or deterioration, testing GFCI devices, and verifying the integrity of bonding and grounding connections. Now, let's consider some specific examples to illustrate when a yard waterfall might or might not be subject to Part 5 of Article 680. In the first example, imagine a small, prefabricated waterfall kit that is placed on a concrete patio and connected to a standard 120 volts outdoor electrical outlet with a GFCI protection. The waterfall consists of a plastic basin, a small submersible pump, and some decorative rocks. The entire assembly can be easily moved and disassembled. In this case, the waterfall is unlikely to be considered a permanently installed decorative fountain because it can be readily disassembled for storage. Additionally, the electrical connection is a standard outdoor outlet with GFCI protection, which provides adequate safety for temporary or portable installation. In the second example, consider a large custom-built waterfall that is integrated into a hillside in the front yard. The waterfall is constructed with natural stone and concrete, and it includes a recirculating pump and water lighting and a sophisticated control system. The entire structure is permanently connected to the house's electrical system with dedicated circuits and a remote control panel. In this case, the waterfall is more likely to be considered a permanently installed decorative fountain because it is constructed in a way that it cannot be readily disassembled. Additionally, the electrical system is more complex and requires compliance with Part 5 of Article 680, including GFCI protection, bonding and grounding, and appropriate wiring methods. In the third example, consider a waterfall that is part of a koi pond. The waterfall is designed to oxygenate the water and provide a habitat for the fish. While the waterfall has aesthetic value, its primary purpose is to support the aquatic ecosystem. In this case, the waterfall might not be considered a decorative fountain under the NEC because its primary purpose is not aesthetic. However, the electrical equipment associated with the waterfall, such as the pump and lighting, would still need to comply with the general requirements for electrical safety in wet locations. In summary, determining whether a yard waterfall is subject to Part 5 of Article 680 depends on several factors, including the method of construction, the primary purpose of the structure, and the intent for swimming or wading. If the waterfall is permanently installed and primarily intended for aesthetic value, it must comply with the electrical safety regulations outlined in the NEC. These regulations are designed to minimize the risk of electric shock and ensure the safe operation of any electrical equipment associated with the fountain. The key takeaways are these. Firstly, assess the method of construction. Is the waterfall designed to be easily disassembled and moved for storage, or is it permanently installed and integrated into the landscape? Secondly, determine the primary purpose. Is the waterfall primarily for aesthetic value, or does it serve other purposes such as erosion control or habitat creation? Thirdly, consider the electrical system. Does the waterfall have a simple electrical connection to a standard outdoor outlet with GFCI protection, or does it have a more complex electrical system with dedicated circuits and a control panel? Fourthly, consult with a qualified electrician. If you are unsure whether your yard waterfall is subject to Part 5 of Article 680, consult with a qualified electrician who can assess the specific circumstances and provide guidance on compliance with the NEC. Remember that electrical safety is paramount, and it is always best to err on the side of caution when dealing with electrical equipment in or around water. By following these guidelines and consulting with a qualified electrician, you can ensure that your yard waterfall is both beautiful and safe.